Can you see the screen that I've shared, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, so yesterday when I was telling you about the reproductive system, you came across this term called hormone, right?
Yes, sir.
What is a hormone? Like effectively, I'm asking, what do we mean by hormone? What do you think is a hormone? Everyone, anyone? Just you have heard this term from me, and you also must have read this term. What do you think is a hormone?
Hormones which regulates functions.
Of course. So, like, the regulate function is very, vague statement to say about hormones. So, we know that they regulate functions, right? But what kind of functions? What functions do they regulate? What functions are you talking about?
Many, like actually they from the brain they also transfer some tissues, right?
Yeah. So,
uh,
what are they basically doing? So, if we want to sum up everything that hormones do, like if I ask you, what do muscles do in one single sentence? What do muscles do? What will you say? You're not going to say muscles helps us in smiling, in crying, in chewing our food, in writing, in lifting our hand, in running, walking, playing football, going up and down the stairs, doing jumping jacks. Will you answer this?
no, it just allows our body to move, right?
Exactly. It moves in, muscles helps in movement. Everything summarized. On in more technical terms, muscles contract and relax. That's all, right? So in one
Yeah.
single line, this is what they do. If I ask you, what do cardiocytes do? Like the heart of the cell do, or what does heart do? You'll say it pumps blood, right?
Yeah.
If I ask you, what do hormones do? Very simple. So we know that they are responsible for lots and lots of regulation in the body, but in one sentence, what will you say? What do they do? Anyone? Any idea? Just answer. Because when I write the answer here, you all will be like, oh, yes, yes, yes.
Can I say
Yes, please.
uh, I have the same answer actually.
What?
They um um they like they it's the chemical that coordinate different functions in body by carrying messages.
Exactly. Brilliant. So they do just one thing. To summarize everything, hormones are known as chemical messengers. What are they known as?
Chemical messengers.
Yes. So what is their function? What becomes their function? If they are called chemical messengers, what is the function of a messenger?
It carries uh, all the messages about different organs to brain.
Yeah, simply it carries messages from one part of the body to other part of the body. Sometimes brain is not even involved. Sometimes, most of the times it is involved, but many hormones are not secreted by brain and does not function in brain. Remember I told you about some the function of hormone like testosterone and estrogen. Remember? So estrogen is the female hormone. I'm just telling you the name. But yesterday I discussed about testosterone. It helps in developing the secondary sexual characters in males, right?
Yes, sir.
None of that secondary sexual character was related to brain. It's not like males have a different kind of brain and females have a different kind of brain. Brain is same, right? All these effects were on different parts of the body, on vocal cords, musculature, and other organs, right?
Yes, sir.
it simply means that some message started from testes, got into the blood, and then reached the place where that message was read and was acted upon by that local organ in the body. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. We'll be studying about endocrine system. Now, when I say endocrine, again, in biology, every terminology defines itself. So the word endo means
Inside.
inside. Beautiful. And the word crine means secretion. Crine means secretion. So if I'm saying something is endocrine, it means it's secreting something inside the system, which is making the system change according to that message, what that message is. So if testosterone is inside the blood and running around in the system, then it's going and telling the system to do something. And then your and then male's vocal cords are changing according to it. Is it clear? Do you understand? Is it clear?
Yes. Yes, sir.
So just write down. Let's first talk about hormones. Let's just define hormone. What are hormones? What do you think is a hormone? What do you think it's a chemical messenger? So what must be the chemical nature of it? What do you think it is? Will it be something nutritious?
No.
No. Because if it is something nutritious, it will be metabolized by the cell, right? So it has to be non-nutritious, so that no cell is interested in it. Only the cell or only the organ for which the message is encrypted is interested in it. Okay. So it's like a barcode or a QR code, which only goes and works in certain kind of organs for which the message was intended to be. Other organs, even if it is in the blood, those cells will not uptake it and not utilize it, because for them it's just nothing. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
It's like those encrypted message games in schools we used to play, where cryptic games where you actually make a code and you decide that letter A or 1 will not mean A but will mean something else, and then you write an encrypted message and pass the chit in the class. Even if teacher finds it or someone else's find it, for them it's gibberish. But if your friend with whom you have made that encryption will find it and understood, oh, what's written. You understand what I'm trying to say?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So write down first hormones. Hormones are non-nutrient chemicals. Non-nutrient chemicals which act as intercellular messengers. And when I say intercellular, I mean, what does the word inter and intra means?
Inside the cell.
No, intra means inside, within. Inter means between. Remember, very long back I told
Yes, sir. Yes. Yes, sir.
inter-school, intra-school competitions. So if something is intracellular messenger, we don't call, oftentimes it's called a cellular messenger. But if something is intercellular messenger, we call it hormones. Is it clear? Between two cells. Am I clear?
Yes, sir.
So write down intercellular messengers. And if they are messengers, just give me 1 minute. And if they are messengers, then it's very obvious that we do not need messengers in very much quantity. Is it?
Yes, sir.
Just give me 1 second, okay? Hello? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Something is a messenger and it's non-nutritive, then do we need it in very large quantities?
No, sir.
It's just a messenger. It has to go and tell the body to change or react in a certain way. So these hormones are always present in a trace amount in the blood. Okay, so write down. They are always produced and are present in trace amounts. Trace means very minimal, so minimal that to figure out their level, we have to do very sensitive tests. So they are produced and are present in trace amounts in the blood or in bracket in the body. Now, if I say endocrine, remember I was telling you about endocrine and there is another term called exocrine. So exocrine, you will not study currently, but it's something which is there in our body. So one is endocrine system and one is exocrine. So what does exo means? Exo means
Outside secretion.
outside, Endo means inside, because wherever these are produced, they are just dumped there only. So let's say if something is produced in the finger and is dumped in the finger only, then blood will carry it wherever it has to go, right?
Yeah.
One thing is it's not targeted. Second thing is it's just inside the system. One is exocrine. So inside secretion, and exo means outside. So outside secretion. Now to make sure if something is exocrine, then it has to make sure that where the things are being produced, they should not be secreted there, right? They have to be secreted somewhere else. Do you understand?
Yes,
sir.
So how will you do that? How can you do that? Just simple logic. If Aisha wants to synthesize something and only secrete it at Mariam's place and not in her own place or in her own locality, what she will do? What you will do, Aisha? You made a card or a plum cake which you only want to be seen and to be eaten by Mariam. What will you do?
I will just cover it, hide it somewhere where I won't find it.
Mariam will also not find, na? She doesn't know that.
No, she will.
But let's say she is not going to find. She's at her home, you are at your home. You prepared something and you want only Mariam to have it. What will you do?
I will text her.
Text cake.
No, I will text her that after coming to my house at this place, go and have that cake or whatever.
Okay, so instead of making very good, but instead of making Mariam make a round trip to your home and pick it and go back to her home, is there any other way by which you can make sure it only goes to Mariam's house?
Deliver it to my house.
See, Mariam has an idea. See, Mariam is like, my dear friend, why do you want me to come, take and go? You can simply deliver it to Mariam's house directly, right, Aisha? Just query. No?
I don't want to.
Okay, she doesn't trust the courier system. But let's say the courier system is foolproof. Or you manage to you have someone in your house who can be your very trustworthy delivery man. Then you can do, right, Aisha?
Yeah, maybe so.
Okay, maybe, okay. Very difficult to convince her, but fine. But to make sure that it goes to the point where we want it to go, we will make a transportation system. This is what I wanted an answer, right? We all will do that?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
It does not go into the normal blood flow, because once it goes into the blood, it will go everywhere in the body. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
So we just want to make sure it does not go into the blood. And to do that, we will make our own vessel. And that is called ducts. Remember in the last class, I told you about ducts? Spermatic duct.
Yes, sir.
Duct of deferens, ductus deferentia. So all these are ducts. Blood vessels, lymphatic vessels, and for hormones, we have ducts. Now ducts are just like pipes, very thin pipes, through which only hormone, diluted of course, in some fluid flows, okay? Now these kind of glands which have ducts, and they only secrete it where we want their secretion are called exocrine glands. What they are called?
Endocrine gland.
Exocrine glands. So endocrine glands, whatever they synthesize as glands, they just dump it in the blood. That's why they're called endo. You synthesize and you dump it there only inside that organ only. But exocrine do not do that. They produce something and then they make sure that that thing goes through their duct and gets secreted where it is required. Now, tell me one example of an exocrine gland that we have already studied in the chapter digestive system.
Sweat.
What?
Sweat glands.
Did I tell you about sweat in digestive system?
No, sir.
No one takes a bite of a
Excretion.
roti with the sweat and then, all right. Sweat has nothing to do with digestion. There was something called salivary glands. Remember, people?
Yes, sir.
Salivary glands. Saliva is not in the blood. Is it in the blood?
No, sir.
No.
We have 3 glands I told you in our facial, in the head, and all these glands have ducts, and these ducts open only into the buccal cavity. So one gland is present in the cheek, one is present on the top of your palate of your oral cavity, and one is below the tongue. Remember? So they are all in between the muscles, but they make sure that through some small ducts, whatever saliva they make, they just secrete that saliva in your oral cavity, not directly in the blood. So they are called exocrine glands. Is it clear?
Yes. Yes, sir.
Do write it. It's important. It comes in your exams. Don't just listen to my teachings as some pravachan or something. If you know what is a pravachan. How many of you can understand Hindi?
Sir, I know why, because to my cousin's small brother, my chachu always used to say, now Babaji will start to give pravachan. It's Gyan, right?
Yeah. Okay. Exactly. Who does not understand Hindi at all? Just say yes. Omar, Riba.
I understand, sir.
Riba, do you understand Hindi?
Yes, sir. It was a compulsory subject till grade 10.
Omar, do you understand Hindi?
Everything, I think.
Yes. Oh, okay. So it means that sometimes I can give some Hindi quotes wherever required, right?
Yes, sir.
I was just trying to keep restrain myself from doing that, but now since I know, I'll do that again. Okay. Anyways, so what I was saying is keep noting these things down, because these things just crop up in a discussion, even if they are not the part of that topic which we are currently doing, but is important for your entrance, and make highlights or whatever way you can mark some important things. So we will majorly focus on endocrine system in today's class, not on exocrine, but we will, in the end, when I will finish endocrine, I will also tell you about exocrine examples. But you understand the basic difference between the two?
Yes,
are ductless glands. What are they? Ductless. They do not need ducts. And I told you why. Because they secrete wherever they synthesize. They secrete directly into the blood, and blood is everywhere in the body. Remember, right? Every organ gets blood flow, because without blood flow, that organ will not get nutrition and will not get rid of wastes. So it will die. So we have blood everywhere and blood vessels everywhere. And these endocrine glands are ductless. They directly dump into the blood vessels. So write down about endocrine system. It's a regulatory system. Endocrine system is a regulatory system of ductless glands.
Can you repeat?
Endocrine system is a regulatory system of ductless glands, without ducts, glands that secrete chemical messengers called hormones, into the circulatory system into the circulatory system to affect distant organs, like organs which are far away from the source of that hormone, distant organs. For example, throat is very distant from testes. Remember yesterday we talked
Yes.
about,
Yes, sir.
but still testes synthesize something called testosterone, which goes and work on your vocal cords development as a secondary sexual character. Now it's very difficult for testes to make a duct which will go all through the body cavity and directly to reach here. It makes no sense, right?
Yes, sir.
So better is make that message encrypted so that all the organs which come in between, like heart, who does not have to do anything with that hormone, will just not pay attention to that hormone. But when it will reach the organ of interest who can read the message or understand that chemical message, will show changes or will get affected. For salivary glands, it was very, very convenient, I will say, because salivary glands are all around the buccal cavity, right? If we had a salivary gland which is present in our elbow, then it would have been difficult for that salivary gland to act as a salivary gland with a duct, right?
Yes.
And saliva is something which we want to be like we want to keep it separate from blood. Okay, so whatever we produce in that, we just can secrete directly in the buccal cavity because the distance is not much, right? You can make that duct. So if something is in your cheek and it wants to get secreted on the inside of the cheek, it's fairly like in millimeters. Do you understand? Make sense, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Now write down. You understood? Should I also make you write exocrine? You can just write 1 point. Exocrine are glands with ducts. Exocrine are glands with ducts. That's all. Just write. We'll talk about it later. Okay. Otherwise, we will deroute. Now let's come to some examples of endocrine system. So we have to secrete hormones, and the first, before secreting hormones, let's classify hormones. So hormones are of different and difficult. Hormones are of different kinds. So write down. There are basically 2 kinds majorly in NCERT, and basically of 2 kinds, and advanced level they are of 3 kinds. So write down the 2 forms of hormones. The first form is those hormones which are soluble in water. So write down water soluble hormones. Write down water soluble hormones. Then there are lipid soluble hormones, and these are the major 2 that often are taught. There is one third kind. Okay, so write down water soluble hormones, lipid soluble hormones. And since I told you that hormones are non-nutritive, they both are made of something which normally our digestive system do not digest and do not have an enzyme for. Do you understand why it is important?
Yes.
Okay. But then there are some hormones which are called protein hormones or peptide hormones. So first is your water soluble. Second is lipid soluble. And third kind is peptide hormone. Now, you will say that peptide or protein is something which is nutritious, right?
Yes.
And I told you that hormones are non-nutritive. They are non-nutritious. I have defined hormones, right?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
They are non-nutrient or non-nutritive substances. So first, let's talk about water soluble. Write down. Mostly these are amine hormones. Water soluble hormones they have this amine group. They are amine hormones. And for anything to be soluble in water, we know that it should be able to, like water molecule should be able to solubilize it. In chemistry, have you studied already about how water dissolves anything in it, or should I not touch that part? So have you been taught in chemistry how water makes things soluble, how polar substances dissolve in water, how non-polar substances do not dissolve in water, organic substances? Have you studied these things? Or I will use some other ways to teach you, make you understand this. Have you, tell me yes or no, you have studied solubility or not? Polar and non-polar substances soluble in water, substances soluble in alcohol. You know, there are certain substances which can only be soluble in alcohol and not in water. Have you studied these things? Anyone? Aisha, Mariam, please say yes or no.
I guess yes.
You guess yes. Okay. Okay. That was enough. So okay. So let's. So it's not in your fresh memory. Okay.
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Anyways, so just write down. Water soluble hormones are either amine hormones, or they can also be protein hormones. Now, this protein hormone is different from the class of protein hormones. I'll tell you how. They can also be protein hormones, like they can be proteinaceous in nature, but a kind of protein which we do not eat in our food. Okay. And these are very small in size. So write down, these are small peptides. For your amine hormones, write down some examples, because these examples are asked in your exams. So for amine hormones, write down, one is called the very important hormone, my favorite, serotonin. You know what is serotonin?
Yes, sir.
What is it?
Helps with happiness.
Yes, it's called happiness hormone. Okay. Serotonin is a happiness hormone. And then is your melatonin. Anyone knows what is melatonin?
Sleeping.
Melanin.
Yes. In one class, you got confused this with melanin. So melatonin helps, it induces sleep. So people who have sleeping problems, these days in market, you will see a lot of things have come up. You have these strips, paper-like strips, which you can keep on your tongue, and then it will help you sleep faster. Have you come across these products?
Yes, sir.
There are also these paper-like strips for your good hair. So they have keratin, or for your good skin glow, or other things. So basically they are hormones. But one problem with these strips is they will just get absorbed and it will go into the bloodstream. But it's not a natural message sent from your body, right? And also these are trace. Remember I told you hormones have to be in trace amounts. So deficiency of hormones causes inability to do that function. But if the hormone is more than what it is required, it can also have adverse effects, which about all the hormones we are not aware of. So melatonin, the moment you keep these strips on your tongue, basically it gets absorbed through your buccal cavity and goes into the bloodstream and directly affects your brain and allows you to sleep, a very peaceful sleep. But you know, over time, what happens? Over time, your body stops producing the natural melatonin which it was producing for sleep. Normally also we sleep, right? Unless and until we are insomniac. Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Yes.
So we are subjecting our system to an artificial stimulus. We are conditioning it. And the more we will condition it, the more it will get dependent on that conditioning. Is it clear?
Yes.
Some people do not go out in the sun often. So they are habituated to stay in air-conditioned homes, air-conditioned offices, air-conditioned cars. The moment they will even go into the sun, which is sweet 25 degrees sun, which normal people spend their life in, they will sweat profusely. Have you seen that? They cannot tolerate even the small, very less amount of heat also. Forget about temperatures beyond 35. Even at 24, 25, they will sweat profusely. You know why does that happen? Because our system gets accustomed to a temperature and to not sweating. You understand?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
When it encounters heat, it all of a sudden, thinks that this is too much. It starts sweating to cool off because we are habituated to a cooler temperature. We try to cool down our body temperature by sweat. Sweat always do one thing. It comes on the surface, and when it evaporates, it's cooled down the surface. So we are not sweating then because it's very hot. We are sweating because we are accustomed to a temperature which is lower than 24 all the time. So whenever we come at higher temperatures, our body tends to go back there. Is it clear, everyone? Life becomes
Yes,
different.
sir.
Same is with these melatonin strips and keratin and these strips. So don't take it unless and until you are asked to do so by a physician or your doctor under conditions. Okay, so melatonin and serotonin are two of the examples of your amine hormones, and there can be another amine hormones. Yeah, okay. And write down about second form, the protein hormones. Write down peptide hormones. They are amino acid polymers. Remember, I told you proteins are made up of amino acids. Everything is making sense to you? Proteins
Yes, sir.
made up of amino acids. So protein hormones are also called amino acid polymers because they're not very long like our proteins are. They are very short, but still they are made up of protein, amino acids. Hence they are called protein hormones. But they are not, they are somewhere around, they can be as small as 3 amino acids. So a hormone, a 3 amino acid chain can make a hormone because it's just a messenger, you understand? But it cannot make a protein. Do you appreciate that? To make something a protein, it has to have a 3D configuration, lot of foldings where it can function. And that's where the kind of proteins we eat in our diet are very, very long, like millions of amino acids are there in one protein. But here we have 3 amino acids lined together sometimes, and it's called it can act as a hormone, protein hormone. And it can also be from 3 to up to 200 or 300 amino acids. Still very short than normal proteins, right?
Yes, sir.
So that's why they are non-nutritious to us, because one, they are in trace amount. No one is going to give you a glass full of protein hormones to drink. The whole body makes even in micrograms or nanograms of these hormones. And even they are trace and they are very small in the chain. So you cannot derive nutrition out of it. So even if body wants to break it down and derive nutrition out of it, it will not be able to do that. So write down peptide hormones. They are small, from 3 to 200 amino acids. And examples are, one example is ADH. Now, Aisha will tell me what is ADH. ADH is famous. You have studied ADH. ADH, people, I have just finished excretory system. And we studied ADH in cardiovascular itself. Mariam, antidiuretic hormone, please. You don't remember ADH?
Remember, sir.
Tell me, are you waiting? Yes, what is ADH? Antidiuretic hormone.
It helps with the dehydration.
What does it do?
Manage the amount of water.
Manages. It takes the water from urine and put it back into the bloods. And therefore increasing the blood pressure, remember?
Yes, sir.
Renin angiotensin mechanism also works on the same principle. I told you. You don't have to forget. Please keep remembering these things. Keep revising. So one protein hormone example is your ADH. Write down antidiuretic hormone. Write the full form yourself. Antidiuretic hormone, ADH. And another is oxytocin. So oxytocin is something which is very, very potent, important hormone, and also most misused hormone. So oxytocin, write few things about it here only because it's important and it's asked. So about serotonin, write down that it's called the happy hormone. No, it's a very beautiful hormone, one of my favorites. Melatonin helps in sleeping, just write here only. Puts you to sleep, sleep hormone. Oxytocin is actually responsible for a lot of maturation purposes. One thing it helps in is during the childbirth, when a pregnant woman is delivering the child, do you know that childbirth is a very, very painful process? You must be knowing, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
A gynecologist or if you are becoming doctors who assist in delivery, then you will realize yourself. So during childbirth, the womb, which is your uterus, actually expands to a limit where the cells starts tearing apart. Okay, and a lot of cells do tear apart. Remember, I also told you when I don't know when I was telling you this, but I told you that the girdles, when I was telling you about the hip girdle and the pelvic girdle, I told you that the hip girdle in women is wider than in men biologically.
Yes, sir.
I told you that is because a female body is already in evolution is pre-equipped to deliver a child. And that wideness is also associated with a loose joint. So normally a girdle is like this. Any girdle is like this, where in between you have space and bones are surrounding it. So we have two girdles in our body. One is called the shoulder girdle. So there is a collarbone. If you see, there are two collarbones, then the ribs, and from it our head comes out. It's like this is the, you understand? This is the opening. And the other girdle we have is the hip girdle, where we have the hip bones, and in between there is a space. And that space is used for childbirth during the delivery, during the pregnancy delivery. Now, these bones actually are not fused together like in males. In males, these bones are fused, like tightly cemented together. In females, they are just put together by cartilage and ligaments. You understand that?
Yeah.
During childbirth, this junction breaks apart. Okay, it breaks apart and it opens, and it's like live fracture happening. So on a pain meter, pain for delivery, a normal delivery, if it's not a cesarean one. So normally cesarean deliveries are safe and easy both for the baby and for the women, and often like doctors also prefer it because one thing is they will get to do a procedure where they make sure that nothing is breaking or thing. You just cut open the abdominal cavity and the uterus and take the baby out, right? In normal delivery, all these things break apart and make space for the baby to come out. And when that is happening, this hormone, oxytocin, lines the complete covering. It's secreted profusely into the uterus and helps the mother to withstand that pain. You understand that? It
Yes, sir.
also allows easy stretching of the uterus muscles. Do you understand? Oxytocin is also a very misused hormone because have you heard of these news? It was in news very like few years ago that some people used to put some injections into fruits and vegetables which are not
Yeah. Like they will grow up early, right? And they will be more healthy and big as compared to the normal fruit and vegetables.
they will be bigger and they will,
Yeah.
but they won't be healthy.
Yeah. I'm sorry, they won't be healthy.
So these injections contained oxytocin to mature that tissue faster overnight. But you know that overnight a fruit or a vegetable cannot grow naturally with all the proteins in it, right? To make proteins, vitamins, minerals which are there in the fruit, biology takes time, right? The same amount of time that our body takes to make these things, plants also take time. So that's why a fruit is bud, then it starts growing up, but it's not ripened. Then it starts ripening and it's fit for our eating, right?
Yeah.
No one can eat an unripe watermelon. It tastes bad and it also is not good for health. But you can eat a ripe watermelon, right?
Yeah.
But if the watermelon got big and ripened overnight within like hours, 24 hours, will it be good for your health?
No, it
But-
will be having lots of chemical, right? It won't be that natural.
Yes. So oxytocin injection helps in that also. Also, this injection was misused in dairy.
Chickens,
Yes.
right?
Poultry and dairy industry, where cows, buffaloes, and chickens were injected with this to get mature very fast and start giving up milk, start secreting milk. But that
Sir, it was used for eggs also, right?
it were used for?
Eggs also. So that, like, as compared to normal eggs and chickens, like if not, it only used to take something 2 weeks.
For the chicken to make egg and deliver the egg, right? This is what you're saying. Once the egg is out, it's
Yeah.
so if you're injecting oxytocin in the egg, then you are just allowing that chicken to grow faster, which we do not want in egg business. We actually want the eggs to never grow into chicken, just stay eggs, and their shelf life increases. So nowadays, do you know that most of the eggs you eat are unfertilized?
Yeah.
You can just keep it till whenever you want. It will never become a chicken. Nothing will break out of it. But earlier, it used to happen, right? Older eggs.
Yeah, even my grandmother used to do this thing when she was having chicken.
Sometimes people used to break their egg to make an omelette, and they will find a half developed embryo in it, and they're like, oh yuck. It used to happen a lot. And also the shelf life decreases. So nowadays it's unfertilized, but yes, it's used in poultry and animal cattle industry a lot, misused. So oxytocin, write down oxytocin and write these few things about it. It helps mothers during delivery and stretching of the uterus or the womb. Also is used or misused, whatever you say, in early or faster development of milk giving cattle and poultry. Is it clear, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. So oxytocin and some grow. Write down another examples. Remember when I was telling you about insulin, what does insulin do? Reba, do you remember insulin? Reba?
Sir, can I say one thing about insulin? Like it balances the hormones also, right?
Insulin balances hormones, you're saying?
Yeah,
Insulin
I think so.
is a hormone. Insulin regulates blood glucose level.
Yeah, like sometimes some hormones are imbalanced also, right?
When you're saying that when insulin is imbalanced, other hormones are imbalanced too.
Yeah, I think so. I have heard it.
But it could be because insulin is imbalanced. You have unregulated blood sugar level, because of which other body functions are also imbalanced, because of which the hormones they were producing was imbalanced. So insulin is working on something, but as a feedback, the body is getting disordered in multiple things. So for a person with high diabetes, it's not only that diabetes is a condition, right? But the problem occurs on other different levels. You do not feel fit, you do not feel healthy, you always feel fatigued, your muscles are not very strong, if your blood does not clots very fast. You understand? So diabetic patients are often told to not get injured. And often if your diabetes is very high, no doctor will do a surgical procedure on you. So if a person needs surgery to be done, they always check their thyroid and diabetes blood sugar profiles. You know why do they do that? Because in surgeries you lose blood, right? And you have to be blood. And your blood should be normal. All the parameters should be normal in the blood, so that basically you can recover or heal the wound. But in a diabetic patients with very high diabetes from very long time, if they get a cut or a wound, blood will just not stop flowing out of it. And they sometimes can just lose so much of blood even by cutting their finger with a knife or a blade. And so much of blood will just continue keep coming out. So, and in those, in that case, you will say that some other hormones are also misregulated because all those hormones which were responsible for other function. So I think you're talking about that, but that's not directly the role of insulin. Do you understand, Aisha?
So actually, my question was a little bit different.
Your question was? What was your question?
And you didn't get to the point till now. Yeah, it was a little bit different. I heard it recently only that some girls who, like, I just heard it, like some girls who are facing from PCOS and PCOD, they are being said that they are highly on like they're being said, right, like they can get easily diabetic, they can be diabetic, or they will have high blood pressures and all.
Okay.
When you was talking about the insulin, that thing came on my mind, that's why I said.
So here you are saying that certain conditions which can lead your body to get into a diabetic state.
Yeah.
All the diabetes is not only because of, so insulin is the most frequent reason for diabetes, but not always. Insulin allows the blood sugar to be utilized by the cells, right? Remember I told you it does not go and cut the glucose. It allows the cell, it tells the cell that see there is a lot of glucose around, so take the glucose inside, right? If your insulin is fine, but the receptor on which insulin binds is faulty, still you can get diabetes, no?
Yeah.
So the door is not opening and insulin is not able to go inside. The reason could either be the key is faulty or the lock is faulty. Both could be there, right?
Yeah.
There's something called genetic diabetes also. Like it.
Yeah, it's there in my family, very common.
Okay. Yeah. So if that runs in families inherently, then it's difficult from people who acquire diabetes through their lifestyle. Okay. So there things slightly become different. Same in case of PCOD, you are saying. So PCOD is because of coming to ovary. So it's called polycystic ovarian disorder, PCOD. Okay. Or PCOS, it's called polycystic ovarian syndrome. Now in this, what happens? Ovaries, there are multiple cysts in the ovaries. Now it's very common, like lots of females have PCOD. But what it affects is it affects the regulation of hormone from the ovaries. Hormones like the same kind of hormones which were secreted from testes like testosterone. There are hormones which are secreted from ovaries called estrogen and luteinizing hormone, which then affects their whole menstrual cycle, which then affects their intake of energy. So every month when females lose blood through menstrual flow, the metabolic cycle also changes, right? You need more to recover out of that loss, right? Do you understand?
Yeah.
Yes.
And they're given many medicines also for that.
Yes, right. So that can have a different way to make you more prone towards diabetic condition. It can also make you more prone towards malnutrition condition or anemic conditions, which is most common. So a lot of females, remember I told you majority of females in developing nations are always anemic, but that's called physiological anemia because of their menstrual flow. It's not a disease anemia. It's because they are losing lots of blood which they are not able to compensate for through a good diet. So they are devoid of good diet because they are poor. Is it clear, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So that's a different. So biologically good question, but you have to then connect dots. How it is happening, and can we whether say one hormone responsible for that change or not, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Good. But that was good, Aisha. Okay. So write down insulin is another example, and then you have, yes, TSH. Anyone knows about TSH? TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone.
I know.
Yes.
I know a little bit about that.
So it's a hormone about which we will study in the chapter. which goes and stimulates your thyroid gland, which is in the
It's located on throat, right?
yes, it's a butterfly. It's shaped like butterfly. It's also
Yeah.
right? And they secrete thyroid hormones T3 and T4. Okay, and T3 and T4 does a lot of things in the body about which we'll study later. But TSH, which is thyroid stimulating hormone, is also a protein hormone. Okay, and it comes under water soluble part. So this is also, you know, a kind of protein hormone category. Just know that this third is for higher studies. You have written what you have written: ADH, oxytocin, insulin, and thyroid stimulating hormone. And yeah, that's all. Now let's come to lipid soluble. Write down lipid soluble one. For TSH, just write it stimulates thyroid gland to produce T3 and T4. I will tell you what is T3 and T4 later. These are two hormones secreted from thyroid. In effect of this. Now there is very simple question which comes. So TSH is called thyroid stimulating hormone. So what does it do? It stimulates T3 and T4's production, right? Right. So if a person, have you studied about this problem called, or do you know anyone who is suffering from hyperthyroidism or hypothyroidism? Because we have started this thing, so let's just discuss here. So it's all
I have heard about it.
hyperthyroidism. What does it mean?
Yeah. I don't know. I just heard it when my dad was talking to his patient. To her, actually, she was a female.
So what does hyper means?
Acceleration or too much.
Yes, too much of thyroidism, like the hormones of thyroid. And what does hypothyroidism means?
Less.
Less, right?
Yeah.
These two things we will study when we'll come to the thyroid gland. But just to explain you, if in a person's body T3 and T4 levels are very high, then what will you expect of TSH levels? Will it be high or low?
It will be high.
High.
It will be low. See, look at the word thyroid stimulating.
Oh, it will be low. It will be low.
This hormone is secreted from brain and goes to thyroid and tells the thyroid to secrete, do your job, bro. What are you doing? Do your job. So if they are not doing their job properly, which is to synthesize the hormone, then this hormone will be more. So if T3 and T4 levels are less, then TSH level will be more. TSH is like the TSH is like reminder. Okay. When will you send more reminders? When the person will be doing everything according to the plan, or when the person will not be doing what is planned?
Not doing what is planned.
So when the thyroid gland will not be producing T3 and T4, which is required, then TSH will be high to tell the thyroid gland to produce it. Right? Knocking on the door. No one is opening, you knock more. No one is opening, you even knock. Then you even try through phone calls. But if everything is going fine and going better than that, so it's producing more than it is required, that's also a disorder. Then TSH will just decrease, because if TSH also is normal, then it will produce even more. It's a feedback. Do you understand? TSH has a positive feedback on thyroid gland. Is it clear, everyone? So since we started this thing, I'm just making you understand some concepts. There is something in hormonal regulation called as positive feedback and negative feedback loop. I hope you all understand this because they are very general terms. What is positive feedback? Now it's different from a feedback you get over your social accounts. When you upload something, positive feedbacks are likes and comments, negative feedbacks are dislikes. No. Positive feedback means something got released and started acting on some other thing, because of which it started releasing. even more. Okay. Now feedback is always towards the back to the source. Now if it increases more, and because of this more secretion, it tells the source to also secrete more, then it is called positive feedback. Do you understand? This loop is like you increase, something else increases, because of that increase you increase. Is it clear? It's like motivation should be like. So I motivate you to run faster, to try your level best, and you break one record. Then I will even motivate you more to go and do that other thing. Like our parents do for our studies. They never say, oh, you have touched 85%. Okay, just stop now. They will always keep feeding you positively. 85, okay, go on, keep it up, keep it up. So that keep it up attitude is positive feedback. Is it clear? In physiology. If something is telling something to keep it up, whatever you are doing, just up and up and up. That's called a positive feedback. Negative feedback is when you secrete something, it goes to something else. And because of this, if this increases, then it will come back to the source and ask it to stop. Is it clear? Negative feedback. You go and tell something to do good. And then when it do good, or it rampens up its synthesis, it comes back to you and say that, okay, now you stop telling me to do good. I'm doing good enough above the threshold. Is it clear? Positive and negative feedback loops. Is it clear, everyone? Because we'll be using it further. So you should know just the foundation. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
So if you have not able, just understand it here. You don't need to write it in your words because I'll dictate it when it will come. But understand something like this is going to come. And one example was was T3, T4, and TSH working on thyroid, and then it's going more. And once, so TSH is secreted, it goes to thyroid and tells thyroid to secrete T3 and T4. Then T3, T4 got secreted, and when their level got up, what happened to TSH? It went, say something with me. When TSH got secreted, it went and told the thyroid to secrete T3 and T4. In effect of TSH, thyroid started secreting T3 and T4. It started secreting more and more and more and more. After one level, when it became more, it went back. The signal went back to TSH, the brain, and told TSH to
Decrease.
decrease. So what kind of feedback loop is this?
Negative.
Negative.
Very good. It's negative. Cool. So you understood. Okay. So write down about lipid soluble hormones. Lipid soluble. So these T3 and T4 hormones that we've just studied, write down, both the thyroid hormones T3 and T4 are lipid soluble hormones. But remember, their stimulating hormone TSH was water soluble. Will you remember the difference now, everyone? TSH, which was stimulating thyroid, was a water soluble protein hormone. Is it clear?
Yes,
sir.
But the hormones which got secreted out of thyroid, which is T3 and T4, they are lipid soluble hormones. And the other one is steroid hormones. Steroid hormones. We'll study about steroid hormones in detail. And in the bracket of steroid hormones, you can write cholesterol derived hormones. There are hormones which are derived from cholesterol. Steroid hormones or cholesterol derived hormones are lipid soluble. That's all. So everyone is clear till here? Everyone on the same page with me with respect to the basics?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Go to organs of endocrine system. Now, what makes endocrine system? So in our body, the human endocrine system has lots of organs. So just let's list down going from top to bottom in the same order. So let's start from the top. So write down. In the brain, we have 3 endocrine glands. One is called hypothalamus. Write on the first. Make a heading, endocrine glands, and we're going from top to bottom. So in the head, we have hypothalamus. Then we have, okay, I'll just list it down. Endocrine glands. Hypothalamus. What does the word hypo means?
Low.
Or low. So hypothalamus is a gland which is present just below the thalamus of the brain. Make sense? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Another is called pituitary. So we call it pituitary gland, but pituitary is enough. So hypothalamus, pituitary, and pineal gland. This is the gland that secretes melatonin. But all these 3 are in your brain. Yes. Now let's come down from the brain. Now, can you tell me what down in the brain? We come to the throat. What glands are there in the throat? We just discussed one. Thyroid gland, and also parathyroid gland. They are also just present adjacent to the thyroid gland. Thyroid gland and parathyroid gland. It's present in your neck region. Okay. And let's come more down towards our chest. Then we have one gland called thymus. Thymus gland around your chest cavity. Let's go even down chest. Now we come to your, what is another gland which secretes hormones? Anyone? Aisha was talking about insulin. Where does insulin comes from, Aisha? Yes, Mariam. Where does insulin comes from?
Pancreas.
Pancreas, right? So pancreas, and we also studied pancreas and digestive system, right?
Yes, sir.
What it was secreting there? What pancreas was secreting in
Pancreatic juices.
pancreatic juice, digestive enzymes, right? And what it is secreting here? Hormones, right? So that's
Yes, sir.
pancreas, write down in bracket, it's called dual organ. It's both a digestive gland and an endocrine gland. It's called a dual organ. The only dual organ, not only, but yes, dual organ in our body. So pancreas secretes insulin. It's therefore a endocrine gland. What else? There are something, remember when I was teaching about kidneys, I told you that there is something in NCERT, when they draw this diagram, there is something sitting at the top of the kidneys, a triangular yellow structure at the top of the kidney, like the cap of the kidney. It's called adrenal gland. Adrenal gland. Does the word make sense? Adrenal. Renal means kidneys.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Adrenal. It's on the renal, right? Top of the renal. Abrenal means below. Adrenal means on the top. So adrenal gland. And these two are present in lower abdomen. And even in females, in the lower abdomen also, there is this gland called ovaries. Now, can ovaries be also called as dual organs? Ovaries. It's also in the lower abdomen in females. So ovaries is only present in females. Can it be called a dual organ or no? Yes. It produces gametes and it produces hormones, right? It's also a part of reproductive system. In fact, it's the primary reproductive organ, the primary sexual organ of females, and also secretes hormone. Is it clear, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Similarly, testes exclusively in male, just like ovaries exclusively in females. Can testes also be called as dual organs?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
They are not in the lower abdomen, they are outside the abdominal cavity, the abdominal wall. And yesterday I told you it's present in a sac-like structure called scrotum, about which we studied, right?
Yes, sir.
That's all. That's all the glands, endocrine glands that we have to study in this chapter in detail. Sounds good? We just have to study 9 things about that. Hypothalamus, pituitary and pineal in the brain, thyroid, parathyroid in the neck, thymus in the chest, pancreas, adrenal, ovaries in lower abdomen, and testes in outside the abdominal wall. I hope I'm not missing it. I'm not missing. Okay, fine. So should we start?
Yes, sir.
Very interesting biological journey. So let's start it off as a story again. And let's start from the top, the hypothalamus. Now, everyone has noted everything. Any doubts you want to ask? No doubts. So write down hypothalamus. There's very less about hypothalamus in the NCERT that I was just looking at, and some fair bit of amount about pituitary, but even hypothalamus is very important, okay? Though we do not pay much attention to it in boards, but it comes in entrances. So you have to understand what is hypothalamus and pituitary are joined, okay? If you see the structure, so you have pituitary coming out, and there are 2 lobes of pituitary, anterior and posterior, coming out from a region in the brain, which is, so this is your hypothalamus. And coming out of it like this lobe is your pituitary gland. Is it clear? So it has an anterior lobe of pituitary and posterior lobe of pituitary. Make sense? Anterior and posterior lobe of pituitary, and both the lobes secretes different hormones. So that's why it's important. But this is your pituitary. So pituitary is basically under the influence of hypothalamus. So hypothalamus can regulate pituitary, and pituitary then goes on to regulate the whole different organs of the body. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Write down first point. It regulates. It means the hormones secreted by it. So just write complete. Hormones from hypothalamus regulates the synthesis and secretion. Hormones from hypothalamus regulates the synthesis and secretion of pituitary hormones. Okay. Now, if its only role is to regulate pituitary, then regulation can be of 2 types, right? Suppose you are the boss and you want to tell the employee who's under you to, that you are regulating the work. Whatever work it's doing, you are telling him to do. So what 2 orders, like all sorts of orders, can be classified into 2 categories? What will be those 2 categories? What is in general 2 categories of advice for anything in life? Biology is nothing exceptional. It's just life. So if you go to your best friend and talk about something, you have something in mind, what will your friend do? What will your friend say? Either to do it or to,
Not do it.
right? Simple, right? These are the only two broader category of advices. So if hypothalamus is advisory to pituitary, it is either going to tell pituitary that, see, whatever you are doing, do it, which means you are releasing hormones. So release it or don't release it. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
It's not very difficult to understand. So write down. Hormones of hypothalamus are either, hormones from hypothalamus are either called releasing hormones. So they secrete two type of hormones. One is called releasing hormones. Now what will releasing hormones do? Releasing hormones basically will just stimulate the secretion of pituitary. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
So if let's say it is something like gonadotropin releasing hormone. So hypothalamus secreted a hormone called gonadotropin releasing hormone. So it will go to pituitary, and the word gonado means gonads. I told you yesterday, gonads means ovaries and testes are called gonads. Everyone please write it down here only. So whenever I say something which you already should have known but you do not know and remember, just write it again. Write it as many times as you need to do it. Here also you have written testes and ovaries. Make a circle, write, they are called gonads. So gonadotropin releasing hormone will tell the pituitary to release the hormones which will go into the gonads and do something, right?
Yes, sir.
And if it is inhibitory hormone, it will tell the pituitary to release something or not release something, or release something which will inhibit other things, or don't release it. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
So write down. It will stimulate secretion of pituitary hormones. Releasing hormones stimulate the secretion of pituitary hormones. Second class of hormones which is secreted is called not inhibitory. It's called something. Yeah, inhibiting hormones. Yeah, inhibiting hormones. Now, if it is inhibiting, write down, it inhibits or stops the secretion of pituitary hormones. It inhibits or stops the secretion of pituitary hormones. So these are the major two classes of hormones which are secreted by hypothalamus, and it comes down into pituitary and affects the pituitary. Simple. So in a way, what will you call hypothalamus as? What will you call hypothalamus as? A regulator of pituitary, right?
Yes, sir.
So it's called a regulator of pituitary. Now, write down some names. First hormone, and these are not, I think, in NCERT, but just remember it. First hormone is called thyrotropin. Thyrotropin releasing hormone. Now, Aisha, what do you think it does? In short, it's called TRH. What do you think it does? It will
I
go.
just know that it releases hormones, but I don't know what else.
You see, its name is saying, no?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thyroid stimulating hormone.
Yeah, so it is thyrotropin releasing hormone, and it is from hypothalamus. So it will go to pituitary and tell to increase the secretion of TSH,
TSH, yeah.
thyroid stimulating hormone. And then this thyroid stimulating hormone will go to thyroid gland and will tell to increase the secretion of T3 and T4. Is it clear?
Yeah.
Right? Understandable, everyone?
Yes.
Yes. So just write down thyrotropin releasing hormone. It's a peptide hormone. So write some things about this. It's a peptide hormone. Yeah, it's peptide hormone. And it stimulates the release of TSH. It stimulates the release of TSH. And another thing it stimulates is prolactin. It releases the stimulus of TSH. It also increases. It also
Stimulate.
sorry, what? It also stimulates. Very good. Thank you. Stimulates the secretion of prolactin. Prolactin and TSH both are under the control of TRH. Yes. And both of this, TSH and prolactin, I told you they have two lobes, anterior and posterior.
Yes, sir.
So you also have to remember from which lobe which hormone comes. So TSH and prolactin, which is under the effect of thyrotropin releasing hormone, is produced by the thyrotropin. Posterior, thyrotropin, anterior lobe of pituitary. Anterior lobe of pituitary. Let's write it. Prolactin is anterior, so TSH is also anterior. This lobe, the first lobe. Is it clear? Second hormone, which is also a releasing hormone, is gonadotropin releasing hormone. I just named it before the discussion. Now, Mariam, what does it do? Gonadotropin.
Testes and ovaries hormone.
So it will go to pituitary and tell to release hormones which will stimulate something from
Testes and ovaries.
this. And what do testes and ovaries secrete?
Testes secrete testosterone,
Yes,
and ovaries
estrogen.
estrogen and progesterone.
You're right. So gonadotropin releasing hormone, write down. It's the short form which comes in entrance is GnRH. Gonadotropin, GN for gonadotropin, small n, RH releasing hormone. So GnRH, again, it's a protein hormone or peptide hormone. It secretes two hormones again from anterior pituitary. One is called FSH, and write down the full form, follicle stimulating hormone. What is this follicle? I will tell you about in reproductive chapter. That's why I thought I should start it first, but now I'll start it after this. So FSH is follicle stimulating hormone, and then there is another hormone called LH. This is called luteinizing hormones. Luteinizing hormone. Both of these hormones are important in female menstrual cycle. Okay. FSH and LH. And their levels also, like high levels or low levels, also dictate like what will be the levels of hormones from testes and ovaries. So gonadotropin releasing hormones is GnRH. It goes to pituitary and increases the secretion of FSH and LH from anterior pituitary. Just keep writing these things down. anterior pituitary. Okay. Now certain another release hormone is one major and most important. This is in your NCERT, I think. It's called growth hormone releasing hormone. Very simple. That's why it's in NCERT. If some hormone's name is growth hormone releasing hormone, is it just telling what it does?
Yes.
What does it do? Yes, Mariam. Or who said yes? Reba or Mariam?
Stimulate growth.
No, it's growth hormone releasing hormone. So growth hormone stimulates growth, but this growth hormone is secreted by pituitary. And growth hormone releasing hormone, which is also known as GHRH, capital, everything is capital. So these names will come probably in entrances. So remember what is GnRH, what is GHRH? Growth hormone releasing hormone. So what it's helping in releasing? Growth hormone. It's saying itself. So GHRH goes to the pituitary and tell the pituitary to release what?
Growth hormone.
Growth hormone, GH. And what does GH do? What you were saying, Riva?
Stimulate growth.
It stimulates growth in the body. Simple?
Yes.
So write down. It's again a peptide or protein hormone. Just keep writing down these bullet points. Just put a bullet and write it's a protein hormone. And it stimulates the synthesis and release of growth hormone from anterior pituitary. So this also acts on anterior pituitary. Okay, and I think in inhibitory hormone, there are very few, but one is very important is your PIH. Yes. So also read one inhibitory hormone. There are other stimulating or releasing hormones as well, but I'm not going into all the details. These three are the major classes. In inhibitory, I'll give you one or two. One is called prolactin inhibitory hormone. Prolactin inhibitory hormone. In short, it's called PIH. As the name says, it goes in the pituitary, and what will it tell the pituitary? To not release prolactin, right?
Yes.
Which hormone was responsible for release of prolactin? Thyrotropin. So there is no releasing hormone as such for prolactin. It can get released under the effect of thyrotropin hormones also. But if you want to specifically stop prolactin without affecting the thyroid stimulating hormone, then you will secrete thyrotropin releasing hormone, which will go and work on TSH, but you will also secrete along with thyrotropin releasing hormone, U means hypothalamus, will also secrete PIH. So PIH will go and say that, see, don't release prolactin. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
For prolactin, it was a question that which for prolactin as a hormone, there is a different inhibitory center, a different inhibitory hormone and a different releasing hormone. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
For others, if you secrete that releasing hormone, it will stimulate the pituitary. If you do not secrete, it will not tell the, it will just do not give any signal to pituitary. So pituitary will not work. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
So for prolactin inhibitory, write down PIH. I think you all have heard the common name of PIH. Prolactin inhibitory hormone is also known as dopamine. Have you heard of dopamine? Of course. Dopamine.
Yes, sir.
Yes. So it is dopamine, which write down, it inhibits the release of prolactin. It inhibits the release of prolactin. And dopamine plays two roles. One is it inhibits release of prolactin. Second, it acts as a neurotransmitter. So this hormone will again, this chemical will again come back when we will start the next human physiology part, which is neural control and coordination. So it acts as neurotransmitter. Neurotransmitters are the messengers which work between two neurons. You all must be knowing that there are two neurons which are connected at a junction, which is called synapse, right?
Yes.
They're not touching each other completely. There is a gap. And in that gap, certain chemicals are released which come from one synapse, come from one neuron and go to the other neuron and bind and send the signal. So dopamine is one of it. It's a neurotransmitter. So it has two roles. That's all. So that's all about hypothalamus that I think you should know. There are a few more things, but those are some research level stuff. Okay. Please go and read NCERT. Okay. Make it a habit to read NCERT. I'm just repeating myself. Now let's start with the second one, going down from hypothalamus. What should be next?
Pituitary.
Pituitary gland. Pituitary. It's called pituitary as it's spelled. Pituitary. Pituitary gland. Now pituitary gland is called the master gland, master endocrine gland. You know why it is called the master endocrine gland? Because it regulates a lot of other organs in the body. But above that master gland, there is also one regulatory gland, right? Which regulates the master itself.
Yes.
Yeah. But since it does not work on a lot of things, it simply works on pituitary. So it's just specific to pituitary. But pituitary is not specific. It works on a lot of other things. So for pituitary, I think you already know a few hormones from above. So for pituitary gland, the first hormone is, write down, very basic growth hormone, GH. So I will not write, I will now write just GH, you know, growth hormone. Growth hormones, another name which comes in NEET is called somatotropin. If they write somatotropin, it simply means growth hormones, nothing else. So what does it do? It helps in growth, right?
Yes, sir.
And how do growth happens? What is the building block of the cell? Fundamental cell 101. Chapter cell is not started yet, but I think you all know about cell. What makes a cell? What is the building block?
Pre-existing cells.
This is where cells come from. But how are cells grow? How do cells grow? How do our body grow? How is our body made? What is the building block of body?
Tissue.
What is the building block of tissue? How are our muscles made? What do you need in your diet more if you are low on muscles? There can never be any straight question than that. To build muscles, what do people have more in their diet?
Protein.
Perfect. Who said protein? Mariam. Okay. Yes, it's proteins. And what are proteins made up of?
Peptides.
What are peptides made up of?
Amino
acids. Perfect. So write down, growth hormone promotes the movement of amino acids into the cell. Make sense how it makes the cell grow?
Yes, sir.
Just like insulin promotes the movement of glucose inside the cell to give it energy. Growth hormones promotes the movement of amino acids into the cell. Where amino acids incorporate to become proteins, where amino acids incorporate or come together to become proteins, therefore promoting the overall tissue and organ growth. Therefore promoting the overall tissue and organ growth. Amino acids or proteins are the building blocks. That's why they are called the building blocks of our body. Is it clear, everyone?
Yes, sir.
See, the biology, even at the highest end, if you break it down, it's very simple. The fundamentals are simple. If you have to grow things, you have to give them more. If I have to grow a building, what I have to give it? More bricks,
Yes.
more building material. So if I have to grow a cell, a tissue, or the whole organ or the body, I have to give them its building block, which is amino acids and protein. So on a cellular level, every growth hormone goes and allows the flow of amino acids into the cell. Is it clear?
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
Okay. Okay. I think that's about growth hormone. Next thing it helps in secreting is your, write down, prolactin. So let's study about prolactin. Clear about the functioning of growth hormone, everyone? I'm not writing. I hope
Yes, sir.
just note it down. Everyone has noted down what I'm saying?
Yes.
Next is prolactin. Write down the function of prolactin. It has multiple effects. It has multiple effects. One first major effect is it stimulates the mammary glands in females. It stimulates the mammary glands in females to produce milk. That's why the name comes. What is the process of production of milk called in females? It's called lactation. Remember lactation?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So it promotes, in other words, lactation in females. And when do females produce milk? Any female, any mammal who has a mammary gland and female, when do females produce milk? Throughout their life, every time?
No.
No. When?
After pregnancy, during.
Yes, exactly. Very just around childbirth. Not even during the beginning of the pregnancy, but during childbirth, the prolactin brain senses that delivery has happened and the baby now will need milk. So just before childbirth and around the childbirth, the prolactin level increases in the blood and tells the mammary gland to produce milk now, because the new coming baby will be feeding on the milk. So lactating females are the females which are in their post-delivery phase, right? They are called lactating females after delivery. Is it clear, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Not underwent pregnancy or who still have active menstrual cycles will not be able to lactate because prolactin levels are low. Is it clear?
Yes.
So write down prolactin level rises at the end of pregnancy. Prolactin level rises at the end of pregnancy when progesterone level falls. I think Mariam told that progesterone is another hormone, right? From the ovary.
Yes, sir.
So when progesterone level falls, and we will study about progesterone when we'll come to ovary, just write it down here. So when progesterone falls, prolactin releases, and prolactin means it's actually stimulating, promotes lactation. So promotes lactation. Clear? So it increases when progesterone decreases. And write down second function of it. So first is prolactin works on mammary glands and helps in the production of milk. Write down the second function. It gives negative feedback to the hypothalamus. That's why I explained negative feedback to you above. So it gives negative feedback to hypothalamus. To stop the secretion of GnRH. What is GnRH? Go up and look.
Gonadotropin releasing hormone.
Beautiful. So it gives negative feedback for GnRH. Now, what does GnRH works on? So if negative feedback is for GnRH, then GnRH will stop. When this will stop, what else will also stop?
Testes and ovary hormones.
No, you missed the in-between major link. GnRH does not work on testes and ovaries directly. It works on pituitary. But all the feedback goes back to hypothalamus. So if you decrease the level of GnRH, what will also decrease or stop? What does GnRH acts on? It's gonadotropin releasing hormone. So what was it releasing? What was it?
Follicle stimulating hormone.
Yes, yes.
Follicle stimulating hormone.
What?
Follicle stimulating hormone.
No, just go up in the page. Gonadotropin releasing hormone is here. What does it helps in releasing? FSH and LH from the anterior pituitary. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes. And FSH and LH is required before and during pregnancy, not after the end of it. So first job that prolactin is doing.
बदतमीजी कर रहे हैं लोग, देखो आके मेरे बैठ के ले ली, मेरे लैपटॉप आके छीनते हैं ये लोग, बुलाओ इन लोग को अपने पास.
कोई बात नहीं, कोई बात नहीं. Fine. Aware of it. Okay, she is. So gonadotropin releasing hormone was working where? On the pituitary, the anterior pituitary, and it was telling the anterior pituitary to release what? FSH and
LH.
LH. And FSH and LH, when we will come to about FSH and LH, in this chapter, in this segment only, I'll tell you what FSH and LH does. But just know that FSH and LH is not required when pregnancy ends. So first thing that prolactin does is it goes to mammary glands and tell that, see, the baby is born, now start producing milk. Then it also goes to hypothalamus back and tells, I have already told mammary glands to start producing milk. Now I am telling you to stop producing GnRH. Because if we stop producing GnRH, what we will already automatically stop is FSH,
FSH and LH.
because they are not required anymore. Make sense to you, everyone? This is called
Yes, sir.
So you secrete something which goes back and tells you to stop the secretion of some other thing. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Also, LH is also responsible for production of ovulation. Okay, so let me go there and I'll tell you. So write down the third. So in pituitary, we have lots of hormones. So I'm not telling a lot of thing about every hormone. It will be too much for you, but just the major thing which comes in entrances. So everything clear about prolactin? Two functions majorly?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let's go to the third one. The third hormone is, let's read about these only. FSH first. Follicle stimulating hormone. I'm not writing the name again. You know the name already. Follicle stimulating hormone. So as it says, it stimulates a follicle. You know what is follicle here? The word follicle is for ovum, oocyte. So oocyte is called follicle here. So write down it triggers the production of gamete. it triggers the production of gametes. In both the sexes, it does the same thing. So FSH triggers the production of ovum in females, and it triggers the formation of sperms in males. Is it clear, everyone? So it is gamete forming hormone, stimulation of gamete formation. Also, write down, in females, it also before it also stimulates, in female, it also stimulates the production of, or the development, not the production. Production has already happened. Remember, I told you they are already produced when you were an embryo inside your mother's womb, the females.
Yes, sir.
So write down, it also stimulates the development of ovarian follicles. Ovarian follicles. Okay. So FSH does two things in females, ovarian follicles, and since males do not have follicles, so they just stimulate the secretion of sperms. Okay, and now to just connect the dots, I already have told you about testes, the structure of testes. Remember, I told you there are seminiferous tubules in which sperms are produced. So now you can appreciate that where this FSH in males is going, what is the site of its action? Seminiferous tubules is the site, right? Inside the testes, it's even going into seminiferous tubules because that is where sperms are made. And then they are matured in epididymis. Is it clear, everyone? You understand this? Okay, good. Write down for FSH, there is one more thing. It also promotes the secretion of estrogen in females. So in females, it promotes the secretion of ovum or development of ovum, ovarian follicles, and the secretion of estrogen. Estrogen is a female hormone, female sex hormone, and it's secreted by ovaries. And in males, FSH targets, as I told you, seminiferous tubules, because that is where sperms are produced. Is it clear, everyone, for FSH? No problem?
Yes.
Yes. So let me ask you, do you think the secretion of prolactin will ever increase in males? Can it increase in males? Or does it need to increase in males?
No, sir.
No. Since still we have FSH and we have prolactin genes, but in males, it does not increase because of two reasons. One, males do not undergo a menstrual or pregnancy cycle. So nothing gives body a feedback to start increasing the production of prolactin. Second, males' mammary glands are rudimentary. Okay. So both males and females of mammals have mammary glands. But to develop it as a gland, you need development of the tissue of that organ. Now that development only happens in females and not in males under the effect of estrogen. Okay. Males do not have, in males, FSH only works in seminiferous tubules to produce sperms, does not produces estrogen. So males never have their mammary glands developed. So they are rudimentary. It's an organ which is present but not functional. Do you understand what is rudimentary?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So it's not functional. It's not there. Okay. So next, let's come to LH, luteinizing hormone. Since we are completing it, LH, luteinizing hormone. And write down, in females, first thing that LH do is it triggers ovulation Now, you know what is ovulation? This I've already told you. The release of ovum from each ovary on an alternate month. In January,
Yes.
left ovary secretes ovum, and that release of ovum from ovary into the tube, into the reproductive tract, is called ovulation, the process of ovulation. So LH, when LH is very high, it does ovulation. Now, LH is very, very regulated in a menstrual cycle because this ovulation is one fixed event in menstrual cycle. So in females, menstrual cycle, the whole cycle, monthly cycle, can last up to 28 days, right? The full cycle is 28 days, out of which there are 3 phases. The bleeding phase, then the makeup phase, like where everything is again building up, and then comes ovulation. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
So basically we start, or it's easy to keep a track of menstrual cycle through the bleeding phases. Now that differs in female to female. It can differ from 3 to 7 days. Some females only bleed for 3 days during their menstrual cycle. Some can go up to bleed for 5 days. 3 to 5 is very normal, but in some cases you will also see some, so it decreases. So it starts bleeding, and then on 3rd day, it's at the peak, the maximum bleeding happens. And then, so basically this bleeding is happening because whatever was built, and I will teach you about menstrual cycle, so don't panic here. Whatever is built inside the uterus breaks down and comes out, and then the bleeding starts decreasing from 4th day onwards, and sometimes it stops on 5th, 6th, or 7th day. So even the bleeding phase is very, very, you know, like it does not have a fixed day, right? It has a range. But ovulation happens exactly on the 14th day of the menstrual cycle in a 28-day cycle. Even if you have differences in the bleeding phase, all females mostly ovulate if they do not have a problem with the ovaries on the 14th day. This is very, very regulated because of LH. Will you remember this, everyone?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Very good. Okay, so write down LH. So I will not, I will just say ovulation here, but when I will teach you menstrual cycle, we will again come back to LH. But just write it triggers ovulation. Second, it write down, it also stimulates the formation of something called corpus luteum. I will tell you what is this later. Just write it down here. Okay. Corpus luteum. Okay, I'll just tell you. So, okay, I'll tell you later. It will take time. Sorry. So it helps in the formation of corpus luteum. That is its second function. Okay. And write down in males. So these 2 things LH does in females. So both of these are in females. Write down now. In males, it has another different name in males, which I'll tell you later because I'm not remembering it now. But so write down, it stimulates the cells in the testes. Remember which cells produced hormones in the testes? Cells of Leydig. I told you yesterday, right? Those who were present in yesterday's class, I told you that there are something called cells of Leydig. So it helps in the production of testosterone, or it stimulates the testes for the production of testosterone in males. Okay. And just know, for your knowledge, that just like testes and ovaries are together called gonads, LH and FSH. So here it testosterone. FSH and LH are together called gonadotropins. Okay. Clear? Everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So I think, yeah, it's time. So I'll take on the other hormones from pituitary in the next class, and probably we'll try to finish pituitary. Yeah, we'll finish pituitary. I think there are, so all these hormones, then we have 2 hormones from posterior pituitary, and then we'll go to, we'll finish pineal and thyroid also. Let's finish the torso, and then we'll go to pancreas, adrenal, and the testes and ovaries. So when I'll go back to testes and ovaries, I will revive back that reproductive part. Remember, I left reproductive chapter at male only away. So I will go till testes and ovaries and bring back that part along with secondary sexual characters, and then in the end we will study menstrual cycle. Is it clear, everyone? And spermatogenesis and oogenesis for your entrances. Okay.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.